Now, Louisville Metro Police are investigating after a teen was shot and killed in the California neighborhood last night. Police say they responded to the shooting just after 9 last night on Gallagher Street. When officers arrived, they found a teenage boy around 15 or 16 who had been shot. He was pronounced dead at the scene. A short time later, police say they found a second victim on 9th and Cawthorn Street. He was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. Anyone with information is asked to call the anonymous tip line at 574-LMPD. Now to our top story. Louisville Democrats are sounding the alarm over Trump confidant Elon Musk and his role in cutting costs within the federal government. At a large protest yesterday, our Isaiah Kim Martinez asked protesters how they believe Musk's role would impact them.
I think we need to think about our pensions, our tax ID numbers, our tax returns, and all of that private information.
Concern from Kathy Carter.
And when the people get together, we rule the world.
Among this packed Louisville Union Hall.
Nobody is safe. That's my message. Nobody is safe.
Protesting Elon Musk's access to Treasury Department records in D.C. and the federal payment system managing Social Security and tax refunds.
When anybody else who would have done that, it would have been breaking the law.
Musk, an unelected official and advisor to President Donald Trump, tasked to make significant cuts to federal programs and prevent what they deem to be wasteful spending. It comes as Trump has moved to dismantle agencies like the USAID, responsible for federal foreign aid, and the U.S. Department of Education. Would you like to just see it gone? I mean, is it a waste of money? I mean,
there are certain things there that are viable, but for the most part, they're pretty much useless.
Kentucky Senate President Robert Stivers, a Republican, telling me in Frankfort this week they're watching the developments in D.C. closely.
We will have to react to some of the things that we know are going to happen there. So we're being very cautious, especially about anybody talking about opening up the budget. We are very cautious and very reserved in what we're going to do.
Meanwhile, back in Louisville Congressman Morgan McGarvey with this bottom line.
No president, much less the unelected billionaire he has as a co-president, can come in and unilaterally shut down laws that Congress has passed, shut down agencies that Congress has created.
Isaiah Kim Martinez, WHAS11 on your side.
A federal judge in New York has temporarily blocked Musk's access to taxpayer records after 19 states sued President Donald Trump. The judge ruled anyone who downloaded copies of sensitive documents from Treasury Department systems must immediately destroy them. A hearing in the case is set for February 14th. A bill limiting the pardoning powers of Kentucky governor is moving forward. The proposed constitutional change easily cleared the Kentucky Senate with bipartisan support. Kentucky State Senator Chris McDaniel, a Republican, filed the bill. It would suspend the governor's power to issue pardons and commutations starting 60 days before a gubernatorial election. The bill now heads to the House, where similar measures have died in recent years. But McDaniel hopes the late controversial pardons by President Joe Biden will give his bill a jolt of momentum.
But the power to pardon allows one person to override the judgment of a police officer, a county prosecutor, a grand jury, jury, judge, in many cases appellate courts, and in several of those cases the Supreme Court, and impose his or her unilateral opinion upon the scales of justice.
The measure is a response to what happened at the end of the last Republican governor's term here in Kentucky. During his final weeks in office, former Governor Matt Bevin issued more than 600 pardons, with several of them stirring outrage from victims, their families, prosecutors, and lawmakers. Bevin lost his 2019 re-election bid to Democrat Andy Beshear, who is now in his second term. In Indiana, state lawmakers have passed a Senate bill that would limit diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts at all state offices and in schools. The bill would also require public disclosure of classroom lessons dealing with diversity-adjacent topics. Many Republican lawmakers describe DEI as an effort to give an unfair, unneeded advantage to some groups of people. But Democratic lawmakers argue DEI is meant to overcome discriminatory practices that make it harder for people to get jobs and experience.
Not against diversity. Hoosiers come from many walks of life and many backgrounds, and it's good to celebrate that. What I don't want is the government to say that everyone with a certain trait should automatically get preferential or adverse treatment.
I'm just trying to figure out that if we're going to take our time to pass a law, that we're trying to solve a problem that actually exists, and I'm not convinced yet that it exists because I haven't seen any data that it does, and you haven't produced any data that it does.
Now, nearly 3 hours into the debate, the conversation shifted when Lieutenant Governor Mike Beckwith made a post on social media saying the bill would pass. This upset Democrats since Beckwith was presiding over the vote, but Republicans were unmoved, claiming Beckwith was using his rights to free speech.